welcome to episode 1 of What We Got Out of It. Or, I hope that's the name, depending on if I'm able to get that domain. We'll see.
Fingers
Sorry, go ahead, Ian.
fingers crossed.
Fingers
Fingers crossed. We'll get it. We'll get it.
For sure. All right, cheers to the first episode.
Cheers.
Oh, that's good.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
Mhm.
Did you get anything after all, Ian?
I just have a glass of water. What did you get? What did you end up having?
It's a whiskey I bought from this small distillery in Texas. The guy, they made it specifically sort of like Wild Turkey 101. I got a little myself. There we go. Like Wild Turkey 101 so that I could work well on the rocks.
Okay.
And it's really good. I like it actually more than Wild Turkey 101. But yeah, it's the first episode, you guys. We're doing it. It's focused. Now we're streamlined. Stay in target.
We dropped a bunch of weight. We threw it overboard, and now this ship's steaming ahead.
Steaming.
Right.
It's steaming.
Steaming ahead. And it's Halloween. Well, spooky month.
It's the spook time. It's the time
Spookiest.
for a frighten to be done upon you, and we chose get right into the theme of I'm so glad that we're starting out this new what we got out of it centered on this most spooky time of year.
Yeah. No, it felt pretty appropriate. God, my mic is really loud. Hang on. I'm gonna
No worries.
Sorry, I'm just staring at the levels. I'm sorry for anyone listening. I'm doing this at live as we
You're doing
go.
great, man.
Thank you, Nick.
They love the spontaneity. They love
it.
how
this is podcast. No.
What's
but
gonna happen next?
What?
It's like, yeah, what's gonna happen next?
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Cool. Anyway, end of so it's gonna be more formatted. We're gonna have more of a structure going on. I'll try to give like a quick rundown of what we're gonna do. We've already been talking about it for a bit. We actually decided this a long time ago, but just for the sake of the first episode, we're in the intro right now. That's what we're gonna call the section. Usually it's gonna be a cold opening and be about whatever. It's kind of more information gathering right now because this is the first episode and I'm going to be explaining shit, but it'll probably be a little closer to the original podcast in the sense that like we're just talking, right? For the first part to kind of roll in. The second one is Rising Action. Everything we know about the piece going in. So everything we knew before watching the piece, before playing it, before reading it, any info we had, maybe like the author, or the director, or the writer, or any shit we heard about before going into it. What our biases were.
Right.
Almost. Like going into it. Climax, because of sex, and we're going to do a discussion of media, which is just, talking about the actual piece, what happened in it, like our emotions that were going on at the time. It's more like a more surface level, literally talking about like things that happened, and getting into the details of it. And then Falling Action is our takeaways. What do we think we should be looking at in this piece, or what you the listener should be looking at? Kind of like the big why does this exist? Why is this story being told? What's the big deal? Like, what's the takeaway? What's the thesis, or even essentially what we got out of it? Because there's not going to be like any objective truth, even though that's the great hunt. But we're not like we've talked about how we're not big on the objectivity part of it.
We're very dead folks.
Yeah,
we're very much the author's dead folks. So what did
I am
what
not.
did? Oh, no.
I'm very much everything is happening at once and influences your take on the piece.
Well, this
Yeah.
is gonna be great going in
I know.
because we're gonna have a
I feel
long.
like me and Ian have never talked about that. That's crazy. Okay. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
very excited.
Here,
Okay.
you know what, Ian? It's a lot easier
Yes.
when the author is dead.
Oh,
Instead
They
of
yes.
can't
having
stop
a
you.
Twitter account and you find
Yeah.
out they're a fucking turf.
Oh, well, yeah,
Yeah.
that is very much the case.
Or
Yeah.
when the author corrects and explains something that you claim, and then you go, "No, I don't like that answer."
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The author goes, "All right then."
Yeah.
You mean the Superman one? Wait, are we talking
Yeah.
about the Superman?
I
That
could
one
be
and
talking
the
about multiple things.
yeah,
Oh,
I think I was referring more to like the cyberpunk thing when people are like,
Or
"Oh,
yeah.
that's not real cyberpunk."
William
oh,
Gibson's alive.
Like,
People forgot about that.
it's so bad.
oh my God.
Just let the
Neil
man live.
Stevenson is alive. Right? That's
Yeah,
the guy who wrote Snow Crash. Whatever.
Uh,
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, Ian's so forewarning, Ian's connection's like a little rough right now. So you're
yeah,
gonna hear a little bit of a delays and it's actually throwing us off. But
yeah,
it's kind of the best we can do right now.
yeah. Well, Neil Stephenson.
Neil Stephenson.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, that's interesting. No, because I'm very much like nothing
Mm.
exists in a vacuum. And if you say it does, like it's kind of weird to say it does, right?
I wonder what
Uh,
actually does.
I think I agree that it doesn't exist in a vacuum, but
Yeah.
also like, I like the idea that like the author doesn't get the final say over what it can mean to its
Mm.
author, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah, I
That's
get where
true.
you're coming from with that.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to be like.
Now, I can do the real cynical thing and be like, that's just an excuse so people can keep liking Harry Potter. But my
Po-
uh
possibly, yes, yes, that's very fair. It's
I feel
also
less guilty.
but I do agree with Ian. Oh sorry, go
No
ahead,
worries.
Ian. Go.
My bad.
I mean, like, and then that gets even more muddied by like the specificity of like the people who are specifically affected by. Let's talk about like that, maybe that specific shitty author who
Yeah.
are still like, but I still really I I was still 12 and really like da da da. But
Yeah.
and that's definitely not the author I want to argue that
Mhm.
necessary interpretation for. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do agree
Mhm.
of the opinion of well, I'm very much of like the text or the piece never changes.
Mhm.
The reader or the audience does. And the
Yeah.
world shifts and all that. I don't think I'm very I literally had this discussion recently about like music. I'm very much not someone who goes, it's a classic, it can't be touched, it's gonna be perfect forever. I
Oh
don't
no no.
I
Yeah.
really don't think that's true. I think things age. Like
Yes.
and they become more and more of a reflection of the
Yeah.
time and the world they were built in.
Yes.
Um, whether for
Yeah.
better or worse, that's what time will tell you, and that's what will get you.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I would
Okay.
definitely agree with you. Definitely. One other kind of exemplar of the kind of thing that I'm thinking of would
Yeah.
be like when Ray Bradbury wrote
Mm.
Fahrenheit 451.
Hmm.
He apparently would get in screaming matches with people who insisted that that the text is about how television specifically
Hmm.
has a direct effect on society.
I
And
didn't know that.
Ray Bradbury was virulently of the opinion like, I wrote for television, I made television something. There are intelligent people who make it. You can't say,
Yeah.
and the argument of, well, like, I don't know that Ray Bradbury's allowed to tell that guy you can't interpret the book that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yes. Okay. That. Okay. I get that. That
Yeah.
is. You cannot control what people think about you.
Yes.
Well. Okay. That's the age-old question, right? I say that, but one could argue
Mhm.
you failed at your quote unquote goal if you're
Yes.
really trying to convince your audience of something
Yeah.
through your text or your piece of media, and they didn't get that. They got something else. It could still be a well crafted piece,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but you've just made it in a way that doesn't go with what you were going for.
Yes.
Yeah.
I say that in the same. I mean, we've had a similar conversation about like a somewhat media illiterate audience who will take in something and then get totally the opposite end of what was intended. Like
Yeah.
Scar as a prime thing we've talked about before, where it is like lots of people watch that and take away. I should still want to be Tony Montana. It looks pretty good up to the part. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah. I mean, I guess
Go
that's
ahead.
the thing of like artistic intent versus what is actually versus what is the takeaway or what is like what it ends up being. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like I said, you can't control the audience intent, but all you can do is just
Even
make
though it
clear.
is like art, it kind of is trying
Yeah,
is an
it's
attempt at that. Like,
yeah, because then it's like because then it's like you're intended to if your intent is to have a message and your
Mhm.
intent is to
which
express
your
something.
piece is going to have one,
Yes.
whether you mean it to or not.
Yeah.
There will be a message. Like,
The thing would be to be mindful of that, and like we
yeah,
as creators try and be mindful of that. But you also, I think, there's like a degree to which it then is like, well, then that's the audience taking it in their own way. The audience
Yeah.
creating a whole other thing that is,
yeah,
Yeah.
I think, in a big way, kind of at least by 1 degree of separation removed from the author.
Mhm.
I would
yeah,
say.
yeah.
The,
Oh, go ahead, Nick.
well, I was gonna say, like, I mean, if I guess in the sense of if it, let's say, a piece of our media that does achieve in what it's intending out to be,
Mhm.
then is a different interpretation of that. Would that in that situation would that be incorrect? If
No,
like
so I don't think no, so I don't think there's correct, incorrect. I think there's degrees. Like there's
Yeah.
what was the okay, you know the phrase there's no such thing as a wrong question or a bad question.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's no such thing as a bad question.
Mhm.
Uh I always posit like maybe there's no such thing as a bad question, but there are such things as like inappropriate or invalid questions
yeah,
Sure.
in regards to the situation.
or rude,
Well, yeah,
Sure.
that I think that falls in that category. But
malicious,
like,
yeah,
so if you're if you're reading fucking um Sandman and your takeaway is, well, I really do think the Blue Man Group did 9/11, then I feel like that's an invalid
Sure. You're,
opinion. Like not incorrect, but I'm like, what are you talking? Like, I would be
you have
fascinated why they're thinking that.
right.
And I think that's the fun of analysis
Mhm.
is to
Well,
figure out the individual's reaction. Sorry, go ahead.
like you have to be able to come back to the text. You have to be able to point at something.
Yeah,
And like
it's evident.
I like what you said as far as like degrees, because I have an example of a horror theory that I read,
Uh-huh.
one of the books that we recommended on the old show, where somebody made an argument that they thought that Hereditary was explicitly about the trans experience, talking about Peter.
Okay.
Uh,
I still haven't seen
and
Hereditary. I actually just bought Hereditary on Blu-ray because it was on sale, so I'm gonna finally watch it. But sorry, go ahead.
well, so for folks out there who have seen it, just without spoiling anything, I do not have that same opinion. I
Yeah.
think that like, that's not what I took from it. I see the argument, and I think that is a great argument that exists within the like. Well, yeah, there's degrees. I can totally see where you get that idea. Sure,
Yeah.
totally. You know,
And then
but
if you want
yeah,
to talk about like, oh, sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
no.
Okay, so if you want to talk about like also from an academic sense,
Mhm.
you're never gonna have just like this is the one way to view a piece. There's a reason different theories or different ways to analyze media exists.
Mhm.
So like I literally took a whole class on literary theory. Like it's just all these different lenses you can do. You can do new theory, you can do, like we said, death of the author. Um More like Marxist style readings, LGBTQ style readings where you're using the evidence for that. And maybe the piece is a stronger advocate for certain theories over others. But at the end of the day, you're using those lenses, you're going to find what it says about that or how, like, where those parts are. So
Mm,
back to Hereditary, right? Like, if you look at it that way, you can view more about like how that movie, what that movie has to say about LGBTQ, if it's saying anything at all, or
yeah.
if also like maybe it not saying anything is
Mhm.
also an issue, like depending on
Sure.
the movie or all that,
Yes. I'm so
and
excited for
depending
you
on the
guys.
subject matter.
Gosh.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I'm so excited for you both to finally get to watch Hereditary, so we can talk about it in the future. Like, oh man,
Yeah,
such
Oh, I've seen
a
it.
Nick's seen it. Yeah, I think my
right.
sister. I think I'm the only one in like my family
Yeah,
has seen
I
it.
was just surprised Chris hasn't seen it first. I
It hits
certainly
too
saw
close.
it first.
I know. Nick, you're a braver man than I am. I felt like that shit hit too close to home, so I didn't watch it.
Well, I mean, you know what? Your worries are valid, but I think there is something. I think you should, suck it up.
Yeah, you should be a man.
Put on your
Speaking
big
of,
boy
in Skinamarink, we're gonna get to points where I kept telling myself, "I'm a big man. I can watch. I'm
You had like your
5'8". I'm a,
yeah, you
I'm
like your
built like
safe
a
razor next to me.
rectangle."
I'm a
And
man. Safe razor. I'm a man.
okay. That was a good sample of the intro. If I want to bring it back to the structure here,
Yeah.
um, so we covered intro, the cold open, everything, rising action, everything we knew going into the piece, climax, the discussion of the actual piece, falling action, takeaways, what we got out of it, essentially, the name of the pocket, what we got out of it. And denouement, where we're going to recommend a piece of media, and maybe even one like closely related to the thing we're talking about,
Hmm.
Mhm.
hopefully. And that should be that. We're going to keep these a little bit shorter, definitely not the 2.5 hour to 3 hour styles we've been doing.
Mm.
We're hoping for an hour and a half, and as I say that, I know we're gonna break that. It's gonna
Yep. Yep.
gonna ruin it for us. But
Mm.
our plan is to do that twice a month. New piece of media because there's no dearth of anything that we haven't like talked about or seen, and there
Wild.
never will be. There's new shit coming out all the time that I haven't seen. I just found out about a movie called Dave Built a Maze. That was made in like 2017. And I really want to fucking watch that movie. That movie, like, I've seen 2 shots from that movie and they look amazing.
Is
Yeah.
it for like scary or is it?
I don't know. It was recommended by a horror writer. It was like, yo, this movie fucking rules. Or a horror artist.
Okay.
And I've trusted him. He's given some really good recommendations of movies I've liked.
Okay. Okay.
But point being, there's no shortage.
Sure. True.
There's not going to be a point where we go, well, we watched it all.
Did
We
it?
fucking did it. We played all the games. We read all the books. We talked about. We listened to everything.
I don't know, guys. There's 3 of us. Maybe we could do it. I don't know.
Maybe
Maybe we
we
could.
can.
Oh,
We could also be real and like this is an excuse to actually get us to watch newer things.
Yeah.
True.
Even though we're talking about stuff that came out late last year,
Mhm.
but yeah,
I
that's
like.
gonna be the structure.
Yeah.
So, if we're all ready, let's go into rising action. All right. So, what did you all know going into the piece? Because I can tell you what I all knew, but I want to hear what you guys.
Ian.
Oh, Ian, go
I
over.
Going into it, I think I only really knew that the fella who had directed and written it was a YouTuber. Just he was in that kind of sphere of the what do you call it? The kind of augmented reality, the VHS horror kind of vibes, like
Oh, yeah, what it's called now. fucking. Oh my god, why am I forgetting? It's such a big deal. Like Mandela catalog or
Analog horror?
analog horror.
Analog. Isn't
Before
it
the
crazy?
name was analog horror.
Or yeah.
Channel 58.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's-
channel.
Oh, yeah.
Anything with the oh my god, Marble Hornets and Everyman Hybrid.
That one's cool.
I love
Yeah.
Everyman Hybrid. I think Everyman
That one's
Hybrid's
dope.
legit great. I actually might like it more than Marble Hornets, but that's just
I
me.
agree.
But to be
Well,
fair, Everyman Hybrid cannot exist without Marble Hornets. So
No, for sure. You get that.
which one had a crossover? There was one where they actually like went to Florida and they did a goddamn like, oh wow, this is
that
intricate.
might have been them. It's been so
I
long.
mean, yeah.
Uh,
And then whatever you would call Wham City comedy.
Yeah.
I always call it like surrealist or like maybe I don't know. I don't know what I would call it.
Like meta. I was gonna say meta horror, but that's
That's
no.
also not enough, right?
It's not enough. It's too many. I think it's too many things to have like a be.
Yeah.
Because any genre label is gonna be reductive to what their vision was.
Yeah.
It's so
It's
much.
like it's got performance art in there. It's got like audience
Mhm.
participation.
Yeah.
It's got ARGs.
ARG
Like
elements, unfiction.
It's Eldritch
Unfiction
horror.
seems to be one of the better genre descriptions I've heard. Of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
style, where it's supposed to like really play around with the structure of storytelling.
yeah.
But it's not an ARG in the sense that there's audience participation that influences the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? Unfiction is just going to happen.
Yeah. True.
But yeah. Okay, so that's what was that all you knew? Like no one told you about the movie going in, there wasn't anyone I'm talking even like what were like any influence at all that may have influenced your opinion about going into the movie?
Any expectations I had, I
Uh-huh.
think the only other thing I had heard, because I did know somebody who'd seen it before I got a chance to, and they had recommended that I don't see it at the theater.
Really?
They recommended that
Interesting.
I watch it when I was at home alone, and they said that
Yeah.
would be the way to watch.
Well, that's very interesting because I happen to know that's how Nick watched it. So,
I
oh, go ahead.
I was not. It was just two, but it was just two of us, and it was still pretty fucking scary when I watched it.
Very spooky.
It's spooky.
Very spooky movie.
Uh,
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the reason I wanted to do this part, Rising
Yes.
Action, is to be as fair as possible to our opinions going in.
Okay.
To give people context, because I think context is really fucking important when it comes to
Yeah.
Yeah.
opinions.
Yes. Fair.
But yeah, anything else, Ian, or should we pass off to Nick? See.
Oh, please go ahead, Nick.
All right, Nick, what'd you hear?
Yeah, I let Ian go first because I know in the
Because I'm a good person.
and I'm here. I'm staying humble, and here's my reward.
Stay humble.
Stay humble, homie. Yeah, I going in, I didn't know anything about the director. I only saw the one trailer.
Yeah.
And that was it. I didn't even know about the way to watch it. I just saw the trailer and my gut reaction was,
And you
I
just
need to see
happened to
this.
watch it the perfect.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah. So my gut reaction was, well, I need to see this in the middle of the night, like by myself. And that's what I did. And then I chickened out. And I already told the story on the other series we did, but to reiterate for new listeners, my pitch to Ian and Chris was that watching this film was me re-experiencing watching a horror movie as a kid, and you're panicking and you're like, what's happening? I need to look away.
I shouldn't be looking at this.
I should not be looking at this. Yeah.
And that was a really good pitch for me. Like that was like
I did not
me to watch the movie.
I did not talk about the visuals. It was just about like that experience.
It's great, and that totally worked on me.
Oh, when he told you to that's right. Okay.
That's what he felt like. If it caused that kind of reaction from him,
Right.
and I've watched a lot of horror stuff with Nick. I'm down. Like I need I want to see what's in. But yeah, so you had a pretty cold going in to the movie.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
Got
would
it.
say.
very
Got it.
cool. Like,
Okay,
sorry to
so
bother you level. Like,
oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, I had a very. All I knew about Sorry to Bother You going in was it was a comedy, and
Mhm.
that was it. Okay, so my probably had a bigger going in or bigger what's it called influences going in. So I had Nick's
Right.
pitch that convinced me to watch the movie, even though I was already interested because I knew the author's work.
Mhm.
So I knew it was probably going to be a bunch of still images.
Yeah.
And it is
Mhm.
for the vast majority of that movie.
Yeah.
In fact, when it's not, it's really it's that's when it's special. Um, had those going in. Knew it was a horror movie. Knew people walked out of theaters watching it
Oh.
because my sister had gone to see it in theaters.
mm,
Yeah.
And I can see why. I know a buddy of mine stopped watching really early on because the cuts themselves were giving him anxiety.
Mhm. Right.
And it's a very, and I was like really taking note of that going in, especially early on. That doesn't give you time to like settle and all that. But
Yeah.
I had that going in. I knew people really liked it and that people really hated it.
Yeah.
And I see both sides now that I've watched the movie. And so that's quite a bit, right? That sets up some high expectations for I'm going to be scared.
Yeah.
Um so we can go into as what my actual reaction was in the climax. Uh, so
Mhm.
and I was surprised I was, because I was actually starting to fall asleep
Mhm.
during early on. Like,
It's start. It's a slow start to the movie.
yeah, it's weird. It's both. So we were talking about those cuts right at
Yeah.
the beginning where you're just not even allowed to settle in on an image that long. It's enough to take in the information that you're seeing, but
Mhm.
nothing a lot of the times is happening other than like except when the kids move or someone says something
Yeah.
in whispers, um, in very almost unemotional ways, other than like the kids you can tell are putting on some kind of like brave voice, but they're obviously scared, but they
Yeah.
feel like they have a need to say something.
mhm.
I yeah, it so I was falling asleep. Granted, it was around nap time watching, so I did have a cup of coffee, which may or may not have been a good idea, depending on how you view that.
Right.
I yeah. So a lot less of the movie is actually just build up than I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be like 2/3. No, it's only like 50%.
Yeah.
Before I would argue everything's kick up a gear with a very simple line, right?
Mm.
Come upstairs. The first time that happens, I
Yeah.
would argue is the actual like okay spooky, because that was me getting up in my seat going, oh, I'm paying attention now. Like I actually had a nice small sinking feeling, not a big one, a small one, enough to wake me up, right? Like, so I want to
Mm.
ask you guys while we're still in the beginning of the movie, uh,
Yeah.
did you have that too? Did you find it hard to keep your eyes on the movie? Because I can totally see that's where people are like, I'm done, I'm out. That's
Yeah.
not, if you didn't like the movie, I could see that being the biggest thing, right?
Nick, what do you?
I don't know if I'm like
You
the
have a lot
best.
more patience than a lot of people, I would argue, for movies.
I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say like, and it's definitely more apparent. Whenever I talk about like terrible anime I watch and just put up with all the crazy stuff.
Hey, I don't know how you fucking do
Um,
it, dude. Like,
you know
like,
what? It teaches you a lot. How about that?
yeah, how about that? How about it's got to
You-
be really bad, right?
oh,
Like, it's got to be fun bad for
yeah.
me to keep going. But you've
Or
watched stuff there, you're
trashy.
like, why even make that?
Yeah, I literally showed Chris some clips of something, and he's like, "I can't stand it," and it's like 2 minutes. Um,
Was it
yeah,
Was it
Okay.
the Butt Battles? Was that the anime that
No,
you
no, no.
can't?
I
No,
can.
that's a good show.
Ian, come
Yeah.
on.
That's a good
Okay.
show.
We're all friends here. I could do the butt battles, but that's fine.
I think I can stand it.
Uh,
No, it would just be stuff where I think it's just so frantic and like you just feel like there's no time to actually process the story and it's kind of just moving on its own.
Yeah, well,
got-
I would even argue at the beginning. I could totally see, think of like what fucking story other than these kids are
Yeah,
alone,
I think I
and
was.
there's obviously something going on with the parent. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I guess to answer the question, I definitely can totally see it when I was watching it. I was more like I think I was just so enraptured by the environment,
Mhm.
Mhm.
the ambience of it. I
Yeah,
definitely
it's a vibe.
felt yeah, I definitely felt I wouldn't say relaxed, but definitely like sort of entranced
Mm.
Yeah,
by it. And then when it gets to come upstairs, and I feel like that's the shock of this is like
sinister.
yeah, sinister, and also like I feel like this is when you know I wouldn't say the story happens, but this is when like we actually
Yeah.
start to see what is actually happening and what is like this leading to.
Mhm.
Mm.
Although
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was gonna say like yeah. So I definitely I definitely can see it, but I don't think it was as bad as for me. I didn't feel like I'm gonna turn this off or
Yeah.
something like that. No strong feeling.
I could actually argue the beginning of everything is those weird. You get to see the window appear and disappear,
Yeah.
and it gives that really. It's almost very cheesy sound effect. The wah, like it's like an old 70s or horror 70s horror
Well,
style sound.
it's a very simple effect, and
Yeah,
like it's
very
what's
simple.
it's crazy as you watch it, and it's so obvious what's happening, but at the
Yeah,
same time, you're kind of well. Hopefully, you're invested in it. You're invested
yeah.
in drop disbelief, and it's just like, oh no,
It's a little breadcrumb.
yeah,
I would argue.
yeah,
Well, a big breadcrumb maybe, because it's
yeah,
like something supernatural has happened,
yeah.
and it did take me a little bit to either. My gut reaction was like, oh, it's gone, but one could also argue it's appearing and disappearing, and
Yeah.
what the natural state actually is. Because when
Mhm.
it does appear, that's kind of a weird place for that window to be. It's really close to that door, and the
Mm-hmm.
paneling is weird.
Yep.
Um, but houses are weird, right?
Yeah.
So the fucking but then you'll get to learn in that movie. No, that's supposed to show you something was here. Now it's not.
Yeah.
Something was here. Now it's not. Um, and it's. I would argue they do pull it off in its effectiveness, right?
Mm.
Of making it creepy and explaining the info to
Mm-hmm.
the audience.
Yeah.
I wonder if there was a more subtle way to do it, but maybe not in a movie where it's very quiet and slow for most of it.
I don't know that subtlety would work with
Me
what the
neither, because a lot of it's subtle,
Mm.
like,
yeah.
or a lot of
Yeah.
it's very abstract too towards the end.
And the movie is meant to, and I think I said this on the old show, but like the movie is so shot from the perspective of a child. I don't think
Yeah.
you're ever put off the ground for most of it. Like,
I would argue maybe not, because I'm trying to think about those camera angles. I feel like there are shots where like you're above things, and I had always
yeah,
wondered. And at first, I really thought those were like security cameras, like old
oh.
ones. But I think I had been so primed by watching found footage movies to just assume they were. But I also now I'm like, that's probably the ghost
yeah, it's probably the ghoulie, whatever this thing
because it's
is.
tall. You can tell it's tall.
It's really. I mean, well, when we get the actual gore in this movie,
Yeah.
what gore we get, it's on the ceiling.
Yeah.
So like, man, that scene legitimately really fucking scared. That really was a bummer. And
Which scene in particular?
it's
If
the
you want to
one
describe it.
as I remember the shot, we're looking at the ceiling, but it's framed like we're on the floor looking at the ground at the lower molding. So
Yeah.
like we're looking at a little piece of ceiling in a corner, and we're hearing the little boy screaming, crying.
Yeah.
And there's just like a splash of blood,
Oh, and it
and,
repeats twice.
and it repeats and repeats. And yeah, yeah. Are we going to talk about style in this movie right at this
Yeah.
part of the?
I feel like style's super important in
Um,
this entire film.
yeah, it's really strange. When I rewatched it, I
Yeah.
rewatched
Oh,
it.
you rewatched it? You're a brave man. Great.
I some of it for this.
Although
I went
maybe
to.
it's easier, right? Like,
It actually is worse.
is
You
it
know that
really? Okay. I feel like if I could prime myself and be like, okay, I just got last an hour, and then things got.
Mhm.
it's crazy because so here's what I would compare it to. And this comparison kind of stuck in my mind the second time today when I was looking at it was um when you have those shots that transfer between the cartoons and the corner, cartoons and a dark doorway, or the cartoons and just a black nothing on the screen sometimes.
Yeah.
Um it felt almost like trance music. It was like it was like being
Interesting.
put into hypnotic rhythm of repeating these things,
Yeah.
and instead of like priming you for a jump scare, because there really isn't. This movie doesn't do that
It has
really.
one.
It has
Actually,
one.
two.
Oh
Just two.
yeah,
That's two.
yeah.
And one of them I would call bullshit.
Uh,
the
what
the phone
what's
one
the
is I think bullshit. Like
what's the which one?
the phone,
Oh the well
the
that's
toy
just a
phone.
ringing. Yeah, that's yeah yeah.
Yeah,
You're
well,
right.
no, it switches eyes, and it. I felt like it was already a really creepy shot, and then to
Mm-hmm.
light it, and then you could have unlit it, and I think you could have just had the eyes move.
And then those eyes.
But then the sharp crash sound, the sharp ring sound with it.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I feel you.
That's my only one. I'm like, that one's kind of it got me. Yeah, it got the little jolt out of me. Not much. I was like, I don't know. The
I
face one is it. I think works.
that shit is so evil.
Yeah,
How dare you put it on film? It is so
that's the mom, right? The mom's. Yeah, that's the
Shadow.
mom's face. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Granted, I've talked about this before, right?
Mhm.
Where we grew up in the era where, and people are getting to it now. Like Mandela Catalog was a big thing. Although I'm the weirdo that's like, I think season 2 of Mandela Catalog is way better than season 1. And
Mhm.
I think it's a much more interesting piece of, and I think he's doing great stuff now. Even though
Mhm.
I talked about that, right? Like where I wasn't sold on it when I first watched it
Yeah.
because those distorted faces really don't do it for me anymore.
Oh? Okay.
They,
Okay.
yeah, not really. Like, okay, because we grew up in that era where it was just scary face on the screen,
Yeah.
and a lot of
True.
it feels like beginner stuff to me. You
I see
know,
that. I see that
you can
definitely.
still have a disturbing shot for it, but that's not going to be the like real horror
Mhm.
for me unless it's like a body horror thing. Then I'm watching things actually
Right.
happen, like almost like a Cronenberg thing.
Right. Right.
Because then
Or
I'm watching someone being mutilated, essentially.
yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I'll look at a screen and go, "Yeah, it's not a pleasant image," but that's not gonna terrify me.
Right. Yeah.
I think this one that it's a good. They do good stuff with the scary faces.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
Well,
really
mean,
do
then
think.
there's I would say lack of face, but
Yeah,
yeah. And,
the
and
photos.
yeah. I'm
I
gonna. Yeah,
mean,
we'll get to that. I'm wondering what the photos are, but we'll get to that.
Skinamarink, I think, is a film that the scariest part is all the things it lacks.
Absolutely.
That's so deliberately
Yeah.
a movie that is the terror of, and the movie conditions you again with that like that hypnotic style I was describing
Yeah.
to like keep looking at things in that like it all the shots are composed in a way to pose the question, what's behind the corner,
What's in the
what's in that,
shadow?
exactly.
Yeah. What am
And
I not seeing? Type
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Because I even do that. I was even doing that thing I always do with movies now, where I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I kind of figure where the camera wants me to focus. I'm going to look at things that are
Mhm.
on the outer edges.
Mhm.
And the movie even kind of suspects you're going to do that. It kind of knows that horror film
Yeah.
buffs are going to watch it because there is a shot very early on of just a door opening, and it's very much off to the side,
Yep.
very much in
Yep.
the corner. But it opens, and you watch it open, and you watch it kind of close.
Yep.
Um, so it primes you for that too. It's
Yeah.
very much this thing. If we're kind of give you like a point of my overall take of it, it's very meticulous. This must have been a fucking hard movie to edit,
Yeah.
and that dude did it. Like he wrote it, he shot it, he edited it. Apparently, it was crowdfunded.
Wow.
What says in the early credits it's crowdfunded, so I want to look up where. I didn't even hear about this
Yeah.
before going in. So I wonder if all those names at the beginning are backers.
Oh, dang. Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, because all the credits are at the beginning, and
Yeah.
I think it's almost like let's get it out of the way. Let's get out this movie
Great.
because he wants that movie to have that ending,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So you're talking. I want to make sure I really get to this point. You were
Mhm.
talking about the almost trance style of beats of camera shot, right? To
Yeah.
me, I always that's for me that's a child watching the TV screen then looking back,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's very much safety, not safe, safety, not safe.
Yes.
Because I think the overall thing in this movie is the TV is the safe point, right?
Kind of. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
To a point.
yeah, to
Yes.
a point, to a point, and very much it's like. So I'm trying to think. It wants us to be in the perspective of these children, to feel small, to feel like so powerless, and
Yeah.
things are just happening, right? And it's scary. You're small. You're alone. You're trying to distract yourself from what's going on. You're
Yeah.
eating cereal. You're playing with the Legos. It reminds me being like staying at like my grandparents' place or uh, home alone as a kid. And you go hang out. You leave a TV on. People
Hmm.
like you sleep with the TV on because that's safer than that feels more comforting and safe that there's a light on, that there's
Yeah.
something playing, there's noise going
Yeah.
on while you're going to bed.
Yep.
And as opposed to just pitch black and dark. Like, because so, and I think that's very much the point because there's even the line where one of the kids say, I can't sleep with the light on. So
Yeah.
they turn it off, but the TV's on. They can sleep with the TV on.
Yes. Yeah.
Although maybe they
Yeah.
can't because Kevin is the last one awake.
Um,
Kevin does wake up.
Did do we want to touch upon what the rough shape of the because the rough shape of the story is maybe 3 sentences. It's like
Go for it.
uh, a boy and a girl, Kevin and what's his sister's name?
Kylie.
I Kelly.
yeah.
Uh, they are in their parents' house, and it seems
Yes.
like they are in a very uh stressed, tense relationship, and the
Yeah.
kids are picking up on it. Um,
Kids always
and
can.
then the boogeyman comes. The boogeyman takes them away. Takes the mom.
Takes
Uh,
everyone away.
takes everyone a fucking way. Um, yeah, um,
um yeah, so it starts off with the dad making a call, and it's obviously not to the hospital or to 911. It's
yeah.
my theory, it's to the mom. That makes the most sense to me. About Kylie falling down the stairs and hitting their head. And you do get that at the beginning. You get a child crying after a loud
Yes.
thump. How they fell is kind of ambiguous, but we can
Yeah.
assume it's the ghost, right? I feel
Yes.
like, yeah, unless we could argue Kevin pushed her, but there seems to be no signs of discontent, right, from
Mm-hmm.
between them.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, Kylie's very much acting in a big sister role
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
throughout that movie.
I would be remiss if I didn't throw this one thing out of a interpretation I've heard
Yeah,
and that I see, which is I mean, the boogeyman could also be just like dysfunctional and like unstable parents
Oh,
that the
there
children.
obviously are.
Yeah,
Okay, I was gonna get to. I feel like the parents obviously are. They are not in
yeah,
good place. They're doing that sitting on the side of the bed because they're up thinking type
yeah,
thing, and that's where you kind of get this. Time is obviously weird here.
yeah,
Type thing. They are not. Time is not following any rules.
yeah,
And you get that first real indication when Kylie is like, I think it's time to get up because it does seem to be a jump, and I
yeah,
think it's an implied they've actually were asleep and then woke up.
yeah.
And it's supposed to be day out, but it's not.
Right.
Which will later be confirmed by the house is obviously in some fucking abstract painting dimension or whatever. It's in the nightmare realm. um, and it's not connected to anything. The phones are cut, and they're not
Yeah,
cut off by like. It's not the tone that happens when a phone line's cut. It's very much like a very evil,
yeah,
like supernatural tone.
yes, yeah.
Uh, yeah. So I feel like you want to hear you want to know. Okay, so this is my running. This is what my theory is. Of what happened
Sure.
right with the parents? Kylie fell down the stairs.
Okay.
And this is gonna run in my whole theory of these are neglectful parents who are too
Mm,
into themselves and not taking care of their children, right?
hmm
Um, Kylie falls down the stairs, hits her head. Dad's first reaction is not to call 911, not to go to the hospital. It's to tell the mom, to let her know, because he knows and this is again, it's all working in my head. You guys tell me what you guys think. My
mhm,
guess is because the mom's gonna find out.
right.
So they need to know, or they need to know how to hide this shit. And maybe the parents are being abusive to the kids, or don't
Yeah.
want to like, because there's obviously child abuse going on in this thing through the ghost, and that could be a manifestation of like the parents early
hmm
on,
Yeah.
which is why like, although well, no. Anyway, so there's that, um, or maybe it is the dad really is neglectful, because I think that causes the schism, right, between the mom and the dad,
hmm
or the dad's gone. The dad's either, we don't know why they're gone. There's could be a lot of reasons. Could be just a divorce,
Right.
right? Could be simple. Maybe child neglect.
But the dad definitely vanished at a
The
certain point in the
dad's
movie.
gone before the mom, because the
Yeah.
mom has the line, your dad's not around and doesn't get to finish, right?
Yeah.
We don't know if he's dead. We know he's gone.
Yeah.
Um, and I would argue maybe the dad it was doing something evil, because he is telling the child to look under the bed,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and that's obviously to scare the child, like, and that's obviously the ghost, that's the ghost, not obviously, that's the ghost doing
Mhm.
it in my head. um
hmm
Mhm.
and that
Well,
could just be a reflection of the parent like forcing him into situations, right,
yeah.
that are harmful to the child.
At some
uh
point in the there's only Kevin. At some point,
yes,
it is
the
only
last third of
Kevin.
the movie it's only Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Once we get out of the first scare sequence, it's only Kevin,
Yeah.
right? And the
Mhm.
first scare sequence I would call the first real one is come upstairs, the sister experiencing the parents, or like going through the whole parent thing, and
Yeah.
then obviously not coming down.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I so there's That's kind of like my running theory. There's also signs like the kids know they're 4, or the sister's older,
Sister's like
but they're
8.
young. Oh, is it? Oh, that's a bigger gap than I thought. I was thinking like 6, or like 5 or 4.
And I think Kevin's like supposed to be 4 or 5. Yeah.
Kevin is 4. He says he's 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, in the movie. Sorry if it sounds like I'm like correcting. I literally just watched this like an hour before.
No,
Because that's what time is now. But so the sister, they know how to make cereal. They know how to fend for themselves,
Yes.
and that's a sign that the parents aren't around much.
Yeah.
At least with children, that they know how to take care of themselves to some degree. They know they have to use the bathroom, and when that toilet disappears, which by the way, that's the first sign of like, oh, this is a problem. This
Yeah.
is this ghosting's an issue. Because they put buckets, and they put
Oh.
two buckets.
Yep.
They're separate, and maybe it is a his/her situation, or it could just be pee and poop.
Oh, I
But
thought it
that
was this one. This one's washing. This one's pooping.
maybe we don't see the sink now.
Don't get them confused, kids.
We don't. No, I would argue if we don't get the sink, we're not supposed to like infer that
True.
type thing, right? It's
True.
got to be. Either way,
His
it
or her.
shows intelligence in those children.
Yeah.
It very
Yeah.
much does. And it's very much like they can take care of themselves to a big extent. They know how to dial 911, and there's
Yeah.
obviously dialing a longer number before dialing 911.
Yeah.
So I assume it's one of the parents.
Yeah.
So it's signs of like the parents aren't around that much. Maybe they both work. Me and Nick were like that, where both our folks both worked, so we kind of knew how to take care of ourselves like early on. So that's what it reminded me a lot of.
Yeah.
And plus a lot of this is me trying to get into the mind of shit. Yeah. And then the sister's defiant, and that's what kills her.
Yeah. Basically, she's the one who pushes back, and
Yeah.
it does not fucking work very good. So
No, which is why Kevin listens. Feels like.
And I mean, yeah, if you wanted to follow that along, that does track with like an abusive parent situation. That the kid who rebels back has a harder time than the one who just goes along with what's going on. I suppose. Yeah. I see it.
I think that's what I think's going on. It's we're watching two. I feel like, which is going back to my maybe Kylie push Kevin down or the opposite. I don't think that's true. I think these children are meant to be presumed innocent the entire way through, and I think you're supposed to feel for them the entire way through. I think it's the sins of the parent type deal. Again, the dad not calling 911 or the hospital before when their kid like bruises their head is a big like flag for me. Like,
yeah,
that's not something a normal parent would do, right?
Yeah.
It makes me think that maybe it was the dad because they were looking for their dad earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so that's what I think's going on, and then this is shot through again. I really love. I think the TV is the safe point of the house, which that happens to a lot of people. Shoot, I still know people who sleep with the TV on. That's the thing.
Just
it's
for
a version of
comfort.
an island.
Yeah.
For comfort. It helps them sleep. The noise does. The silence is deafening. Type deal. You know? People sleep better in cities than outdoors, and people sleep better outdoors. Like all this whole thing.
If somebody like out there made an audio track that was just the sound of Sanford and Son playing in another room,
knock you out.
It would either knock me out or it would give me a panic attack flashback.
I can do that. I have a soundboard on my phone, so I'm gonna put that on there and just play it around you. But so that's kind of my take of that's what I think is quote unquote going on in the movie, right? Not the meaning of the movie, but I think that's plot wise what's going on, or like the events, right? How do you all feel about that before I get into specific questions I have about the movie that I want to hear you guys take?
I would say that I think that like lines up for a certain degree. Like if you wanted to make the most meaning out of what you're looking at,
Yeah,
That's it.
which we'll definitely get in. We'll get into like why.
Yeah.
Right?
But
Yeah.
sorry, one quick thing, but is that I don't think that this movie is really about, like, I love this conversation, but the meat of the movie is mood, tone, menacing vibes.
I think the more interesting part of this movie is how it sets you up.
Yeah.
Is how it builds you, not like what's going on.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It is all the what you look at. It's not really it's not about logic. It's not about working out what's happening. It's about just letting it happen to you.
Very much like a child.
Yeah.
It just happens to you. You're here and this is going on now. Like,
yep. Mm-hmm.
it very much, and that's like a thing that even when you're an adult, when when bad things happen to you, that it almost puts you in that spot again.
Mm-hmm.
Where you realize like bad things will just happen. And they'll keep happening. Like, there's no reason why it should stop.
Yeah.
It's wild, actually. If you one last thing, Nick, before you jump in, was it's wild how even for grown adults, like you say, when those kinds of things do happen, people often will regress. Like,
absolutely,
they'll just behave like children because that's the last point of reference they had. It's just like, and it's I mean, yeah, everybody handles it different, but that's not uncommon. Not uncommon.
Yeah, I talk about all the time how like you have no fucking clue what you're gonna do in any situation until it happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, and sadly, you won't find out until it does, and it may not be the best way to handle a situation.
No.
But sorry, Nick, I feel like you haven't gotten to say something in a bit. So.
Well, no, because like I think, well, I mean, I already talked at length of my experience watching it, and I feel like bringing that up regression, I think, kind of reflects what I was sharing of that sort of fear and sort of like sort of helplessness you sort of feel again when you are overwhelmed by what you're seeing on screen. And I guess if we can talk about the end of the film.
Yeah, we can. It's all spoilers, so yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So, I kind of figured it was going to be something Eldritch. It was going to be something involving something beyond being, and sort of showing that this creature, like this ghost creature is putting the kids through a loop of torture, or torturing them.
So that was gonna be my question, what the 572 days were, and I think it's that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, they're in that loop, and that sort of reflects of just how warped everything is, and everything's just in this pile. Like everything that used to be for the kids would use to it's like safety, escape, are just in this pile, and they're stretched as far as possible so they can't reach it, and they're forever stuck in this infinite loop of torture, because that's the biggest fear, as for a parent, is having their kid in such a horrible state, and they're in this loop.
But at the same time, when a kid's in that, like, again, if we're agreeing, what the fuck was that? Ian, was that you? Were you hawking a loogie?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't think so. Sorry.
Or maybe it was just the audio. That was so fucking weird.
Yeah.
Nick, did you hear that?
Yeah, it sounded like a Daffy Duck, like
almost.
Really?
Like, yeah. Or like whatever. That took me out of that. Okay.
I'm sorry, dude. I don't think so.
I don't. It may have just been the fucking audio.
That's great.
What I was gonna say? Okay, back to about abusive families. Is as a child, time goes a lot slower for you because not for the main reason being you have like a very smaller frame of context for time.
Yeah.
So hours seem longer, days seem longer. So I feel like when you're in a child, I don't want to go into personal things. When you're a child and you're in those kinds of situations, think time feels so fucking long, and it feels
Yeah.
like you are in that long stretch, in that long loop, and every day it's something new, but it's the same. Like you learn ways to avoid things, but you're always gonna find some new way to fuck up, and it'll always feel like harm is your fault, right?
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. That's the ghost telling the child to do it,
Yeah.
because the ghost can obviously move shit,
Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
ghost is behind that couch for a
Yes.
while. It's almost like, again, the TV. Kevin has to allow the ghost to let that happen, almost, or like,
There. Yeah.
I wonder, because it's because they get past somehow,
Yeah.
and it's not
Yeah.
Kevin doesn't move the couch or anything; it just happens. So I think that,
Yeah.
okay, you know what? I think that theory falls apart, um, but it is interesting the ghost makes Kevin do it because the ghost can manipulate shit.
Well, that's coming back to, I think, tying the ghost to the parent.
Yeah,
It is, I'm in control of you. Do this thing that's
yeah.
gonna fucking like that. Like, what's more terrifying?
I
Again,
didn't do it; you did
just
it, Kevin.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's
There's
horrifying.
like, having a parent. I mean, having a bad parent is one thing, but like in
Yeah,
the many different flavors is a parent who can not only abuse you but then turn it on
on
you,
you.
and
Yeah,
like, yeah, yeah,
absolutely. It's way worse.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah.
and then the loop thing, that like that to me also to some degree read as, is that a loop of abuse of like, oh, he's stuck with a terrible parent, or is it a loop of abuse of, oh, these people should have been divorced, and the loop of abuse that children, like, oh, these people shouldn't be together, why are you putting your children through what y'all are going through, kind of thing. Like, I could see both
Yeah.
readings on that as well.
And I wonder, because I don't think it's just the dad was the bad one, because the
I
mom's
agree.
still around, and bad things are happening during that time.
Mhm.
Uh, Again,
Well,
they're fending. So that's the crazy part, is the mom is upstairs, and they're talking about the mom being upstairs and how they don't want
yeah,
to go up there.
yeah,
This is after they fed themselves,
Yeah.
yeah,
so the mom's neglecting them on that level too.
Hmm.
yeah.
Like, it's so interesting to me. And again, the fascinating part about is how they explain this info to you,
Hmm.
in that they
Yeah,
always keep you in this perspective of the child.
yeah.
Like, you feel so small and so little info going around. You just know bad shit is happening.
Yeah, well, I think that's also worth saying is like, in the whole, like, it's an almost 2 hour film. You have to
Yeah.
watch the full thing to even piece together the context that we've been
Yeah.
talking about. It's so fragmentary. It's so
Hmm.
non-linear. It's so disjointed.
It's both
But
linear and non-linear at the same. It's crazy. Like,
yeah, yeah.
and it can do that because it's in a supernatural realm or some shit.
Well,
Yeah.
Go
it's
ahead.
got that great kind of, again, we can get more into the atmosphere of it, but just to say, like, as far as narrative, again, like in the
Hmm.
shape of it, you you can't really say like, there's not a lot of scenes where, oh, and this is this scene, because
Yeah.
a lot of it is like you said,
There's
edited
no
in.
scene of a dad or a mom backhanding their child.
Yeah, exactly. There's no
None
scene
of
of
that.
really the kids talking. There's like 2 scenes of the kids talking to the parents, I think, in the whole thing, or three,
Talking
or
to
like
them, yeah, yeah,
very few, very
yeah.
very few. And then, like, also when you hear the demon, the ghost speak,
Hmm.
there's like this mix going on where sometimes you don't understand what the voice is saying,
Yeah, and it's doing
and
that on purpose, like,
it's so deeply
because it's their
upsetting.
subtitles.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and there's not always subtitles. Sometimes you can hear the
Yeah,
voice and it's not being subtitled at all. So you have to
yeah,
just like, well, and then the movie trains you to become very sensitive because it's mixed
yeah.
so softly, and then and thus that becomes a weapon because
Hmm.
in a sense, but because it doesn't do jump scares really, again, except for the one we already complained about, Like the movie mostly just keeps I wanted to find a different word other than edging. Keeps like keeps like
Jesus,
drawing
okay.
out. I'm so sorry. Keeps drawing
Fucking
out.
get your mind out of the gutter, dude.
I'm
Fucking,
so sorry. I apologize.
my
Uh,
God.
it keeps
You know, it just keeps
prolong-
ramming you like.
prolonging this drawn out tension of,
Yeah,
oh no, when is something bad gonna happen?
yeah,
And for most of it, it doesn't really give you that. It
no.
just is dread building without any relief at all. So I think if you sit down and are committed to like the vibe of that for the whole time,
Yeah.
it's gonna get you. Like you have to.
Which, okay.
No, good. No.
I was gonna say, which is a really hard sell for
Yeah.
people to watch something, because
Sure.
what, man, especially when you're older, you're like, it's one of those things you got to watch the whole thing to really be into, and it's
Yeah.
like, I don't got time for that.
Yeah.
Like, I
I'm
don't
one of
blame
those
people. I do not blame people for not liking the movie and bailing out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
For that reason, because it is an
Um.
hour and 50. But if you are, you're very much rewarded
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh
with
yeah.
some
The
like
last two images.
master class in shots and editing, like,
Yeah.
and they seem so simple, like, but they're obviously like so meticulous. Like, he must have gone through a dozen iterations or something.
I mean, this dude is compositionally brilliant. He's
Yeah.
really, really strong as far as
Yeah.
like the shot choices for this whole. And not only shot, he almost never moves the camera for much of the
No,
movie.
when it happens, it's very like, oh fuck, dude.
Doubling,
I can't
yeah,
move.
exactly.
Yeah.
And there's even a few scenes where he has the like. I love this choice. You know that he's actually moving the camera away from what is happening. Something's about to happen.
Yeah.
We're gonna look away now.
There's a great sequence where even towards the end it teaches you a new, like, I guess, vocabulary or like language for the film. New letter, let's assume, where it's the rabbit disappearing and it's that sound effect, right?
Yeah.
And then you learn that means something appears.
Yeah.
Right? You learn it's the opposite. Something is appearing because you get a shot of things appearing when that sound happens.
Yeah.
Or disappearing.
Yeah.
No, sorry, disappearing. And then you get shots of that sound happening, and then there's fucking nothing. Like, it's just black on screen, and then that means something disappeared, and you don't know what it was.
Guys, can I say something? I did hear this. This is something I had heard from after the fact, and it makes me want to like watch it with a different contrast on.
Oh, okay.
Is he did say that there are shots that are black, that are just a dark screen.
Yeah.
But there are shots where there are people in the shot. And that was how he phrased it. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean? You know. So
that means I gotta turn up my brightness on every fucking shot.
I gotta watch it like Hereditary.
I gotta put on my computer and then just turn that shit up.
Yep.
I'm sure someone's done it. I wonder if I can like just look it up.
Look at the stills.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm looking at time. Anything else we want to talk about? Just what's happening in the movie, or just explaining things before we get into what is the point?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of touched upon it, but the quick shots of seeing the photos and essentially they're.
Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, where essentially the head of
are gone.
What appears to be they're gone, either removed, and I think, well, my interpretation, if we're going off of neglect, it seemed to me like that feeling of not when a child expresses their distress to a parent and they get no response, and it seems like it's just like removing them from their memory, or moving them from these points in time where they weren't, points in time where they were happy, and now just their memories are just filled with like the worst parts of it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Again, bringing it back to they're into themselves, not the
Themselves, yeah.
children. Right? They're so worried about why they feel this way.
And so this is
Dude.
where my connection. Oh, sorry, my bad.
No, Nick, go for it. Like, me and Ian have talked a lot. So
Yeah, no, it's just because like
sorry,
I had,
Ian.
it's not. The irony was that I had so much to say like when I was telling you guys, but I knew I couldn't say it.
Yeah,
So the only comparison, no, I mean like the last
yeah.
podcast, not like now.
Got it.
I mean like is that's why I make this apt comparison to the caretaker's intention, where him with sampling the album, everything at the end of time, we're at the end of time, where it is samples removing parts of it with the intention of the feeling of helplessness.
As things are slipping away.
So things are slipping away, and also like this feeling of having memories being removed, good or bad. Yeah, no, I think it's like it did feel like that with Skinamarink, where it did feel like there was this intention of like you said, of the fear of like of things being removed physically, and then like now you see like memory and and then like the daughter having her face removed,
Yeah.
like so she
Yeah,
can't
those
like
images
voice
are
her
pretty
fears.
creepy.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask. My only thing is like, why is it put up like a slideshow though? Like an old, the little cartridges, or the fucking little stills that you put into a projector.
Yeah.
Why like that? That's my only. Because it makes it seem like it is out of time, and someone's looking at these in the past.
Yeah.
Maybe it is the ghost going through the parents' memories because he's obviously feeding off that, right? Yeah,
My suggestion, from at least my perspective
yeah,
as being the old person, the old but when I saw the still photographs, it legitimately was just, oh, this is another kind of artifact tying it to specifically my childhood. So like,
okay,
this dude might be like, I'm pretty sure he's 33.
okay.
So like,
Oh
we're
God,
almost
okay,
the same age, like.
yeah,
And I think that on top of this film was shot in his parents' house,
yeah,
where he has filmed other short film projects before. So,
mm,
like, the language, the visual language, is all tied to, I think, a very specific nostalgia,
yeah,
potentially, like my
yeah.
childhood, how I grew up. But I like the specificity of that anyway. I don't mind it at
Mm-hmm.
all.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at time here, so let's go
Yes.
into falling action.
All right.
Why? What is this film trying to say about if we're agreeing, right?
Mhm.
Abusive parents,
Yeah.
neglectful,
Yeah.
possibly violent, more than likely violent,
Yeah.
right? And to
Yeah.
Nick's point, psychotic and all that.
Mhm.
What? Because now the point seems to me, right, that
Mhm.
this kind of abuse, we're obviously trying to figure out the perspective of a child, and maybe that
Right.
when we're talking about the abusive cycle, we're always talking about the parents, and that,
Yeah.
and whenever we talk about the children, it's always
Mhm.
like it must suck for them. That's a hard life to
Mhm.
live.
Right.
Tough little guys, right? And
Mhm.
it's hollow. It really is because, like, yeah, maybe that is all we can do because we'll never understand their perspective, but we should try so we can know what they're
Mhm.
feeling and what they're going through, so we can help them on a more
Mhm.
psychological level.
Okay.
And this film is very much trying to giving you the perspective of a child from the height of the camera to the whole film being making you feel like just bad things are on the horizon at all times and you're
Mhm.
stuck here.
Mhm.
I think it's supposed to point that out, that when a child is going through that, one to give you not only their perspective, and that maybe we should focus on that a lot more
Mhm.
because it's horrific and it's scary. It's a
Yeah.
constant, that being in that state is not just like, oh, a bad thing happened and then we're fine. It's you're in this constant loop, or it feels like just this forever loop, and you're never actually out of it. You're always scared because something bad can happen to you and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Uh
what that's what I think this movie is playing at.
Hmm.
Is to point that, is to show that perspective.
well,
That it does
and
feel
then
like, and you count them by days, and it feels like that long hallway, and that safe haven is far away. And even if you get there, that could just be a lie. Right?
if I wanted to take that even further in a metatextual
Yeah.
reading, I would then say like, well, you could make an easy argument, I think, that the our final boy in the story is to some degree like coming from some part of the author specifically,
Yeah.
and therefore you can then read that as, hey,
Which is
some of
weird
that
because it sounds
trauma.
like he had very loving parents if they're like, if they're
Yeah, they supported his filmmaking career, so I don't know, but it doesn't have to be necessarily be that doesn't have to be the trauma that he's bringing. Everybody has
no.
a different like issue
Yeah.
that they had in their childhood. Maybe it
Mhm.
wasn't that, but
And not everything
right,
you talk about is about yourself when you make media.
that's true. That's
For
true.
like,
That's
that's a very easy trap to fall into.
that's absolutely true.
It'll obviously
Uh,
have an influence, but it's not what necessarily it's about.
yes, exactly. I mean, when so whatever he has been bringing personally to it is at least an insight into the child's. I agree, the child's
Mhm.
perspective of helplessness. But you could also read that in the making of the film, that like day 500 whatever, that endless cycle
572. Yeah.
is also just like a view of, yeah, when you're in a cycle like that long enough,
Mhm.
it starts to feel like you are haunted by it, like
Yeah. You're
even
not
when
getting
that
out.
kid like if once that kid leaves that metaphorical cycle,
Yeah.
it's it's there in your brain, baby,
Mhm.
forever. Well, I mean, unless you get therapy to like work on it, but yeah,
Yeah.
like it's those kinds of events linger, especially when they're drawn out traumatic cycles of abuse, like we've been talking about in this
Mhm.
episode. Yeah, yeah.
I have a thing for the final shot, but Nick, what do you think is why? Why?
Well, that's a simple
Why?
question. Let me tell you.
Let me tell you, money. That's why, and I'll fucking
Money,
make
because
another
it
one.
was cool and he saw the fuzzy on the
It's the
screen.
fucking
Like, that's
producers up
amazing.
in here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely how to describe this. Like,
Yeah.
it is interesting because now we're at a point where now the young adults to average adult age, their nostalgia is that sort of analog and
Yeah, it is for
sort of
me.
that feeling.
Yeah.
And there was always this sort of just, I think because there was like this sort of casual acceptance of, yeah, just yeah, casual acceptance of abuse and like distractions from it. And it did seem like with Skimmerink, it was sort of capturing that moment in time, while also like, yeah, I did feel like it's also the spin on.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I argue like there's some form of having your reality and having your sort of thing warped when something invades it,
Yeah.
and that's why like the shot at the end of having the pile of toys is stretched and as far away as possible, like
Safety is
any
so
form of
far. Yeah.
safety is unreachable.
And there
Yeah.
even is oh my god, I forget it's such an important line.
Hmm.
What the child says, what Kevin says before they shoot the door. I mean before they show the door. And
Oh,
the
show the
door is
door.
obviously
Oh,
sorry?
isn't that when he says when they show the door? What isn't? Yeah, isn't that when he says like, um, what is a phone? Is it? Do you mean the phone call or like?
No. The door, like there's that just the shot of the door, and
Mhm.
each one's a slow transition to be like closer and closer.
Oh, my bad.
Because the door is obviously supposed to be like that's safe. If you can get out,
Yeah.
you're
Mhm.
safe. You're home free. If you can get out of this movie, you're like you're,
You're good.
Mhm.
and it's false
Yeah.
because you once you open the door, there's just Blackmore because you're always going to be stuck in it.
Mhm.
It's always going to follow you, which is going back to well, okay. Before I get lost in my own thing again, sorry, Nick. You keep going. You uh finish up or
Good.
whatever you got at. Yeah.
Hurry up.
No. Sorry, didn't mean it.
No, I was gonna say like I guess my takeaway for that was that this is definitely a film that has a more definitely one of the more abstract views and interpretations of sort of capturing that sort of helplessness
Yeah.
for a child and doing that. And I think doing this way really was makes it like special and also having shots like allowing the audience to have these shots that are still and like sort of always looking up where it's
Mhm.
like above us always looming yeah no I mean that's probably my major takeaway and that's why I love it so
Yeah.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so real quick before I lose this train of thought,
Go for it.
back to the door, beyond the door, there's nothing,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
That you're always gonna be stuck in this cycle, and that you'll return. Like I think the ending, because it's
Mhm.
obviously towards the audience
mhm,
Mhm.
or the viewer, or at least that's how I'm interpreting it.
Mm.
Um, is to show that now you're back there, that
Yeah.
it will if you were part of that, or if we've all had moments like that as it's playing off the moments of as a kid you're scared, you're up late at night,
Yeah.
you feel alone and just how powerless you are. Everyone's gone through that, right?
Mhm.
um Hopefully, well, maybe not hopefully. uh there's
Probably though.
definitely, probably though, there's varying degrees of how bad it can be. It could just be as simple as it's dark and that's scary to me, and that's fine, you're a child, right? Like um and now you're back there, and you'll always remember, it'll keep haunting you.
mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's why, and I think that's why it's asking your name. It's that memory trying to get back into you,
Yeah
right? Or trying to
Yeah.
come up again.
I.
Because we have to talk
I.
about the ending if we're going to talk about a piece of media. But
Oh God, that ending, dude. Fuck that ending, man. Like,
yeah
it's so
yeah.
long. It's so
It's.
long.
it's a long it's probably the longest shot in the
It's
film
really cool that it asks you twice, like it's goading you almost. Like
yeah
I.
yeah. Now you watch the movie
Yeah.
type of deal.
I. I told you guys that my old roommate, she had watched the movie when she was going to bed,
Oh
right?
my
I
god.
told you guys that.
me
Yeah,
too
I
She
think you
has
did. I think you did.
she has, she has a TV at the foot of her bed. She was watching it with someone else, and she
Such a
was
bad idea.
describing like it's like 10:30. She's coming in and out of consciousness basically,
God.
just as that last scene is
Yeah.
coming in.
Oh, it's
Holy
so good.
fuck! What a fucking brutal time
Yeah.
to do that.
To
yeah
wake up.
Oh god. Oh my god.
mhm.
Oh. But Ian, anything else to say what you think,
Um.
what's it about, or
Well,
what you got out of it? Like the actual thing you got out of it?
the actual thing I got out of it was kind of more meta, but I would say like
Yeah.
I'm so happy for this movie having such. It seems like it got pretty good success. It got pretty really good word of mouth,
Yeah, it did.
um, and I honestly kind of would
The
love to
fact that
see
it had a
more
wide theater
movies.
release to some extent is crazy. Like,
Isn't that fucking nutty, dude? Like
yeah.
this movie, by the way. I just checked this statistic earlier. Blair Witch had
Uh,
more than double the budget of this movie. Uh,
wow.
and
You know
that's
what? I
not
believe
accounting
that
for
though.
yeah, yeah.
I believe that.
I mean, this flick was made for
Had dialogue.
1,500, I think, something
Holy
like that.
shit.
Like,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
isn't that bananas, dude?
That's
That's
so
1,500. Like,
bananas.
that's unheard of. That's like
Yeah.
bottom. Anyway, like, but the fact that it got a wide release and the fact that like a movie that's so non-linear is so non-explicitly narrative driven.
Yeah,
It's a tone piece, like, and the
it
fact that
really is. Yeah,
it got this like the degree of success that it did. I will say one other thing. I want to like, I'm I'm grateful someone told me not to watch it in the theater, because I feel so strongly that, like, if I had had a Vavitch moment, it would have really ruined it, because I saw
yeah.
the Witch in theaters twice, because the first time it was spoiled by people who were like
Oh,
Oh well.
not enjoying themselves and not letting me enjoy the
yeah,
movie.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, we
yeah.
agree
That
with
Yeah.
that.
sucks.
Yeah.
Granted, I argue the Vavitch was very poorly advertised.
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
know if you remember it, like lead up, and that it was supposed to be this just horror movie, just straight horror movie,
It was not that.
and it is not that. That is a
Tis,
period piece with sometimes a spooky thing happens.
Spooky thing.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It
Yes.
is a
Yes.
period piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm grateful for that experience. I'm glad that I got to. I think that I'd recommend for listeners. That is kind of the ideal way to watch it. Watch it by yourself. Watch it in your living room
Yeah.
with all the lights out. Watch it in your
Yeah,
bedroom with all the lights out.
you want to be
Uh,
freaked the fuck out. Yeah,
if you want to have a bad night,
yeah.
oh
If you
man,
want that
yeah.
feeling, man, that feeling.
If you want like
If you want
the
to be
kind of
scared about going upstairs, not just because if you fall you might die, but I mean, like,
I don't think I said this on the other show, so I'll make it
yeah,
short because I know we're. But did I tell you, like, this movie gave me the kind of fear in my little body that I felt when Beyond Belief was on when I was like 6 or 7 years old.
okay,
If you
yeah, yeah,
remember, Jesus Christ, like the same kind of like sweat building up on your back, but you don't want to move because you're
yeah,
afraid.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ugh, so good.
Again, I think that's the way you when you were talking about the shot TV room
Yes, yes,
TV.
yes, yes.
safety evil,
Safety.
not
Eve, Eve.
okay. So yeah, should we go into the denouement?
Yes, please.
Any
Sure.
last words about the movie?
What do you think, guys? Last word?
Fantastic. I love.
Same.
I really love this movie. I think it's a master class in composition shots, mood piecing.
Yeah.
Like, um, it's unlike any other horror movie you've seen.
True.
It's like it really is like you're watching those internets, which again he made a bunch
Yeah.
YouTube shorts. But now it's been like fully realized, right? And as a
Yeah.
feature.
Yeah.
Boy,
That's
is it
very fair,
fucking cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
It's
So
beautiful.
little.
Beautiful to see.
The
Yeah,
epitome of less is more, right?
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. I mean, it is a movie that makes you afraid of absence. It is a movie
Yeah.
that
Again,
shows you
which when you're a child, that's what that is, man. Like,
Probably the most tension I experienced in a
yeah,
film.
you're not afraid of the dark. You're afraid of what's in there, like type
Mm,
of thing.
yeah.
and it does keep ratcheting up the threat of there's something there.
Yeah,
There it is. Yeah.
and it really
Yeah.
fucking is.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Huh?
So I loved it, Nick.
Yeah, I loved it too. I thought it was fantastic.
Right
Uh,
on. That's another
please.
thumbs up, Ian.
Yeah, everybody go if you get a chance, like set the mood and watch
I gotta
it
buy my
this
hard copy.
October. Oh my
Mm.
god, yes.
Gotta buy a
Get
hard
that
copy.
get that Blu-ray telephone cover.
Oh, dude, I saw that. Yeah. Again, I still think that one's bullshit. I don't think you needed it, but whatever. But you know what? Whatever. I'm gonna let it slide.
We need something for the trailer guy.
I
Put
know.
some-
I know.
we
That's what
need-
that
Yeah, I
is,
gotta
dude.
watch
I
it again.
fucking.
That's exactly
Okay.
what it is.
All right. So denouement. I'm probably saying that wrong. Let's stop trying to say it right. Any recommendations? Just one thing. You just need at least one thing. You can say more, but at least one thing that maybe people should check out for the spooky month, or whatever, whatever, like something you saw and like you want to recommend to people.
I'll jump in and say it's this is not analog horror. This is just a found footage flick.
Got it.
But when I were checking last year, it's usually posted for free on YouTube because I think the studio
I think I know what you're gonna
dissolved.
say. Yeah, go for it.
I think the studio dissolved, so I think you can watch this film on YouTube. Actually, it's just a public access. It was called the I think it's called the Jersey Devil.
Oh,
It's
never
just
mind.
called
Not what I
Jersey Devil.
thought you were gonna say.
It's from 1995. It came out the year before Blair Witch,
Got it.
and it's framed as a found footage film about a murder that is pinned on two like public access paranormal investigating
Oh, that's cool.
dudes.
That's really cool.
Hmm.
And
That
it's
sounds
all
like
set
some
in
shit
Jersey.
I would make up. That's really cool.
Wow.
And it's all set in Jersey. There's a psychic involved. There's like a town history. It's a real fun Halloween
Nice.
time. Here's what I will say. I'm aware that the last 10 minutes don't live up to the rest of the movie, but the rest of the movie is so good. It's so good, guys.
All right, so warning about the last 10 minutes, right?
Kind of a like a whap whap, but the rest of it's really good.
Goddamn.
Oh wow.
All right, Nick, any recommendations?
You know, because since I talked about the caretaker, I would recommend in that regard, probably his last album he put, which essentially is a B-sides of what didn't make the 6.5 hour album.
Jesus.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's funny because
Gotcha.
that B-side album is like 30 minutes long in total.
Okay.
And it's definitely a more compartmentalized version of that sort of vision. I would also say I think some of my like genuinely favorite tracks are on them, like stuff I would re-listen to. And I think going off this idea of less is more, I do feel like I do get why they were removed, but at the same time, I think there's really something to them. Trying to find the name of the album, but yeah, that's usually my recommendation after rewatching Skinamarink is the album. Oh my god, Everywhere and Empty Bliss, which was a couple years after the full album. So I recommend that Everywhere and Empty Bliss, the album.
Bliss.
Got it. Okay, cool. All right, for mine, I wanted to recommend. Oh my god, this is Found Footage Q, which is a very unfortunate name for this time of year, even though it was made in 2011, way before.
You guys, it was a sign. They wanted us to know. It's all real.
Way fucking before it was becoming a thing, and it's a problem. The only thing is I haven't watched it yet, but it's a series of what I've heard really good found footage horror on YouTube for free. I feel like as someone I've talked about this, I did like a really big deep dive into found footage, like last year, so I could recommend stuff for ages. But if I had to kind of like narrow some stuff down, what's oh my god, the Alien Abduction, the original, I would argue.
Crater Lake.
Alien Abduction at like Crater Lake. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna see multiple names. Some people just call it Alien Abduction. Some people, there's the name Crater Lake. Both the original and the remake that happened 10 years later are both good and have different things going on, but are essentially the same storyline. That one I'd recommend only for the case of like that's probably one of the earliest, if not the first, found footage thing to really kick off.
Yeah.
What we would come to know as found footage horror in nowadays. If you want a fun like Evil Dead, like I would argue it's a real successor to Evil Dead. At the time when that bad Evil Dead remake came out, but now Evil Dead Rise is really good, and I haven't seen that yet. Deadstream, which Ian famously didn't like because the character
didn't care for it.
No, because the main character is a piece of shit. But it's the whole fucking point of the movie, is my thing.
Bum fights. I'm a bum fight, dude.
Dude, he's such an awful person. But it's a modern day awful person. So it feels way more real. Like
I stand by loving the puppets. The puppets in that are excellent.
the puppets are great. I would argue it's a real another impressive one guy's passion project on
Mm.
Shudder. Fantastic. Check it out. I love Deadstream. Ian does not, but if anything we can
Really.
agree on, the effects are killer. Like
Oh yeah,
they're
absolutely.
really good. Really fun. Just a good fun Halloween romp, you know?
Yes.
Mm.
And then if I'm gonna give like a smaller recommendation for found footage, we already said the classics like Channel 58 is divine.
It's golden, dude.
Gold,
Yeah.
gold. Everyman Hybrid, and
Yeah.
I want to do like I'm trying to think of one maybe people
Like
haven't.
having.
Yeah. It's gonna escape me, so I'll just recommend for
Pet
another
Scott?
fun meta one. Ghost Watch is free on
Ooh.
Internet Library or Internet Archives.
Everybody out there, I
Free.
saw Ghost
Free to
Watch when I
watch.
was a kid. I saw it on PBS. It scared the goddamn life out of me
Yeah.
growing up. Really, you guys got to check it out. It's so
Now,
good.
granted, there are some context things missing.
Yeah.
If you watch it nowadays, especially online for free,
Yeah.
go look up the history of that film
Yes.
after watching, because holy
Yeah.
fucking ship the cojones. Like
Love it.
for that show. It's fucking cool. Like it's some baller shit. Like it's really rad.
Yeah.
And I think that'll take it for the first spooky month
Yeah.
thing and the inaugural one. Skinamarink, we did it, you guys.
Yeah.
Nice.
We got it. We did
Yeah.
it, guys.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Hey, what was? Oh, go ahead, Nick.
No, I'm saying sweet. That's cool.
Sweet, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, what's the? Okay, what's a real good scare reaction you had from the movie? Go, Nick.
Oh, I guess the one that got me pretty good was the
And how did you react to it too?
the obvious one is the final one, and
good.
that's
Good.
Space.
It's a real good one.
and the second one was the hallway. I think it was just the loop
Yeah.
the kid was in, and that was the moment actually when I was like peeking over, watching it.
Yeah. Oh man,
Yeah.
I was side eyeing a lot of stuff at some point. Like I was like, man,
Yep.
man, fuck.
Yeah.
like I swear to God, like, and I was watching in my room and shit. Ian, good reaction you had to a scary bit.
It was to the part where the sister lifts her head up from looking under the bed when her mother tells her to go down there.
That guy, no, it's the dad.
It's the dad.
The
And
dad
it's him
tells her to go
facing
there.
away. Him
And
facing
he's
away.
gone.
And then he's gone. And then she looks down. She looks up.
Mhm.
Fuck me. It genuinely is giving me chills right now thinking about it.
Because you think it's gonna be a bullshit. Like, are we really doing this, man? Are we really?
Yeah.
And we are. There's nothing. Of course, there's not. It's not
There's
under the bed. It's the house, man. Like,
Yeah, man, the house is just fucking hates you. It hates you, man. What about you, dude? What was the moment?
I think it was to close your eyes because I had been primed with the look under the bed and with the mom closing your eyes. Especially again, I had that like parental abuse thing already going by that point.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh man, the mom's gonna do something fucking awful.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be one, it was to make me more comfortable for sure. But I thought it'd be really funny because there were, and I don't know if anyone heard this. I knew there was people in the house, so and they knew I was watching Skinamarink. So I said really loud, "Man, this is a spooky movie," and it's just that was my favorite one.
That's a banger, bro.
Because it's for sure like I definitely said that just to make myself feel good. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think the moment I turn on the lights was when he does go upstairs and he's looking under the bed.
Yeah.
That's when I literally pause and went, I gotta turn it on. I can't.
There was a moment I stood up, and I think it was like when the red, you get the shot of just the Kaylee in the corner.
Yeah.
I think it's Kaylee. It might be the mom, but it's Kaylee. And the red light, it's the only red light in that entire goddamn fucking movie. So it's like, am I about to watch violence?
Yep.
But it's more of the implication of violence. So
Yeah, when I will say one other when that last shot happens, when the darkness just it's hard to describe when something appears from the darkness that is the darkness.
Yeah.
And it's so much like the night terrors that I would have as a child, where you just see patterns in the nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's definitely playing on that, dude.
yeah. And then the movie ends, and and then and then the movie ends, and I was in the living room at this point. My fucking back was a swamp, my guy. I was just bulleted to that little part where I was sitting.
Yeah.
Well after the movie had ended, well after we were back into the Amazon Prime selection area.
Oh man.
It's like, I'm not fucking kidding. Nah.
So damn. No, I'll tell the story. No, I'll tell it real quick. I watched on Hulu. I was gonna watch on Shudder, which is what originally came out on, and Shudder did the big thing. The only thing is my PS4 does not, for whatever reason, PlayStation doesn't have Shudder, which is bullshit. That sucks. It should have it. Shudder is a fantastic thing, and I personally love it. I just happen to use it on a computer and a different TV.
Mhm.
I only knew it was the ending for the movie because then the screen darkened and it said, "Up next, John dies at the end," because you love that movie, and I was like, I do love that movie, but I don't want to see that watching Skinamarink. So what the fuck, Hulu? Just let the movie end, huh? How about that? Before we get into the thing, don't tell me that it's going to end. You know. Anyway, bullshit. All right. For our next episode, we'll be discussing Faith Chapter 3 and probably just Faith Trilogy in general.
Yeah.
The video game by Airdorf, published by New Blood Studios. So if y'all want to check it out, I highly recommend that game. And I don't think it's that expensive right now, but you can go check it out, support the game, or just tune in anyway. Next time, maybe we'll convince you to play the game, because I know we already like it. So.
It's not only such a fun game, everyone, and these two know more about video games than me. It's such a fun game, for one, and two, the conversation is going to be fun because we're going to get into like 80s Satanic Panic. I can't wait to talk about it.
Fuck
Hell yeah!
Dude. Oh man! All right, we'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
See ya.
Later.